Thank you, Mr Medic.
Thank you, Acting President. I want to thank my parliamentary colleague for bringing this motion to our chamber. Indeed, I want to thank him for giving me this opportunity to talk at some length about the abomination that is duck shooting and the equal abomination that is the Game Management Authority, the GMA. It is about time that the Game Management Authority operated with some transparency. Indeed, I think this move is essential for our goal of finally being rid of both the GMA and the hypocrisy of recreational killing in Victoria once and for all. Let's be clear about the Game Management Authority. It was put in place by shooters in the Parliament. It is stacked with shooters on its board. It is there to entrench the increasingly unpopular and irrelevant activity of shooting live animals for fun. The 2017 Pegasus Economics report into the effectiveness of the GMA was scathing, noting that the GMA has not been able to effectively fulfil its compliance and enforcement responsibilities, and that the GMA is vulnerable to capture by the interests that it is seeking to regulate. Indeed so, because it was designed that way from the very start. The Pegasus report also makes clear that the GMA's position exposes the minister to considerable risk and, if not changed, will contribute to continued non-compliance with the game hunting laws and the erosion of the hunting community's social licence. So it has. The hunters have lost their social licence. Almost no one wants it to continue. And as it turns out, almost no one wants to actually do it. I was there last year on the opening weekend, and there were way more people prepared to rescue wounded birds than to shoot them. Those that did show up with their guns and their ammo, their boats, their four-wheel drives and their camo, everything, were frustrated mainly by one thing: no ducks. Funny what happens when you steal the water from the rivers and deprive animals of their breeding grounds. In 2019, the annual aerial bird survey found wetland conditions to be as bad as they were during the Millennium Drought, when the 2007 and 2008 duck shooting seasons were sensibly cancelled. That same year, though, 2019, based on GMA advice, a season went ahead anyway. A year later, and birds have dropped a further 23%, bringing Eastern Australia's total water bird loss to 90% in the last 4 decades, and yet shooters still expect a sanctioned slaughter to go ahead. My colleague asks why this survey is still being used, and I counter that it isn't being used. If the government were letting the science drive their policy, in this case, the extensive and longitudinally consistent bird number surveys, we would not allow any killing of increasingly endangered water birds. Let's take a look back at the kinds of things we've learnt from recent GMA surveys. We know through their own survey that up to 80% of shooters don't know the difference between game and protected species. They don't know the difference. 86% don't know how to humanely kill ducks that don't die instantly from their wounds. In fact, fewer than 4% of shooters passed the GMA's most recent general knowledge test. Fewer than 4%. FOI requests have also previously revealed that the GMA is made up of or led by shooters, and they claim a social benefit to shooting, despite no social impact studies having been performed by the GMA, despite this being required of them under the Act. Their own Act. I'd like to conclude by restating my appreciation for this motion to increase transparency in this decision-making. I am confident that more transparency will expose the truth that the decision-making by the GMA is fundamentally biased towards shooters' interests, as it has always been. I am confident the release of these documents will strengthen the arguments to ban duck shooting here in Victoria. Therefore, I commend this motion to the House.